Now, on Enough Said, with K-Fans Dan Barrera.
The suggestion that this is the sort of Rosa Parks moment.
And Justin Guard.
You feel bad for a guy who's just completely swimming in it.
He is.
Enough Said.
What happened to my dad should have never happened to any human being, regardless of the circumstance. We were horrified and shocked and sickened to learn what had happened to him and to see what had happened to him.
Oh my God! Oh my God!
Welcome back to another edition of Enough Said. My name's Dan Barrera. Justin Guard is with me. Our seats have not been taken. What's the word they use?
Reaccommodated.
Reaccommodated.
Not yet.
And Lori Fisher is in her chair, which means she has not been reaccommodated as well.
I'm ready to go.
Welcome back.
Hi, guys. That United story, the passenger dragged off a plane, just keeps evolving. You just heard from his daughter. The 69-year-old Kentucky man, he was dragged off that United flight on Sunday night. Dr. David Dow's attorney says he suffered a concussion, a broken nose, and lost 2 front teeth when he was removed from the plane. He was bumped off the overbooked flight when he wouldn't leave. Chicago police removed him. Cell phone video caught the disturbing moments on the plane. United says something like this will never happen again, but as you can imagine, there is word of a lawsuit. Dan.
Well, I think the stat is each year 40,000 passengers in the United States are, involuntarily
reaccommodated.
Yeah. They don't really have a choice. Hopefully it's usually done before they've actually been seated, but the number's 40,000. All the airlines have been holding their breath because they have been hoping and praying that no one would resist to the degree that this particular individual decided to. That said, I would suggest that you got to have a better plan in place. Even if it rarely happens, even if it's your nightmare, the plan implemented by United Airlines was no plan at all. It couldn't have been stupider. It couldn't have been more ham-handed, particularly in the social media age in which you have to know everybody's going to have their camera out. And beyond that, of course, the first apology, first of several, that's the trend now.
A couple of days, yeah.
From United Airlines guy Munoz, I believe is the CEO.
The CEO.
Was just as stupid and just as ham-handed, and so that starts the spiral that's turned into the story of stories.
Wrong to not figure out that they needed these 4 seats a little bit earlier.
Right.
Wrong to not figure it out at the check-in. Wrong to not figure it out at the gate. Wrong to not figure it out on the plane. And then, as you mentioned, or wrong in how they figured it out on the plane, the 3-day apology. If there's anything, we talked about Pepsi last week. And we're going to talk about Sean Spicer.
Well, Pepsi loves United because it took them off the hook.
That's kind of the point. And even Sean Spicer to a certain degree, which we'll get to in a second. The CEO sends an email internally that more or less says, I know I apologize publicly, but I've got your back. We did everything. You should know better than that in 2017, that out of the thousands of employees United has, that's not going to get out there. Apologize, try to move on from it as quickly as possible. There's no way we should still be talking about this, 4 or 5 days later? But
we'll get to that
there are still more tentacles coming out every single day.
Yeah, there's another stupid for me. We've also reached a point where the reaction and some of the reaction has become stupid.
Crazed.
Example, the suggestion that this is the sort of Rosa Parks moment when it comes to standing tall for abused passengers. Give me a break. Stop this nonsense. But that's what happens when we stay with the story. It's got to keep moving, and that's what the attorney has suggested. Look, there are some messy realities to airline travel. Are there not?
Yes,
I think that's a little different than systematically refusing to allow African Americans to ride either on a bus or on the front of a bus. So stop with that nonsense. Stop with the martyrdom. We're also frauds too. Do you know why?
You and I? Or generally?
Public.
Yeah.
Anybody who travels in an airplane. Here's where we're frauds. We kind of want it both ways. I mean, part of the reason that a lot of people who are in that same position, I don't think, run necessarily or resist the way this guy did, is even if they're bitter, they accept that is kind of the system.
And it's the rules.
And the overbooking, in part, is what protects airlines from the people who don't show up, which saves money, which presumably makes it easier to get better fares.
We have to keep moving.
And we want, what do we want?
Better fares.
We want better fares. And so we like the system until we don't like the system, and that's where we've also got some explaining.
Federal law, by the way, we need to raise up the limit on
I agree
vouchers.
totally.
There should be no limit. I don't know why they have it. $1,300? I don't know.
We're going to stay on United, but let's just kind of change angles here. You say we spend so much time on these stories because it has the incredible video and that other stories are kind of being lost in the shuffle. What do you think about this, Dan?
Well, look, I mean, to a certain degree, you say, well, this is what brings a story to life. But on the other hand, what by definition that means is a lot of stories that are, as far as I'm concerned, far more important.
And underplayed.
And
yeah,
underplayed
for sure.
are underplayed because, look, we're on TV. TV needs video. TV needs powerful images. And let's face it, they're not afraid to run those images into the ground to introduce a story, reintroduce a story, start the debate on a story. And sadly, that means we just had that same week. We had a story of a judge in Chicago being gunned down in front of his home. Now, that may have been, whatever the reason, it's horrible, but a judge, you start thinking about judges being murdered, that should be a really significant story for people. No video. So we're not going to spend as much time on it, and that's why we end up getting fixated to the point where we go over the top with it. That's where we have ended up with United Airlines.
Video easier to digest, easier to see. It's different, more impactful, more powerful than the post-game, so to speak, of whatever is going on. We've seen this in the sports world. Ray Rice was underplayed until what? The video. Joe Mixon, the running back out of Oklahoma.
Domestic violence in general.
For sure. Yeah,
so to that extent, you could say it serves a purpose to bring it home.
Yep.
But there are times where I think it ends up becoming a bigger story than it's really
worth.
And
we don't react at all. Like the commissioner of the NFL, for example, with Ray Rice, just kind of limped in with a bad suspension. He hasn't played since the video has come out, right? Joe Mixon from Oklahoma. The same thing. So I think the public doesn't move a lot of times until they see it as well, which is why we do it on TV.
The other thing that's annoying, to be honest, is it makes it easier for the politicians to get involved and to grandstand.
For sure.
Which they're already doing on this issue. We're gonna have new policies. We're going to have new legislation. And they need to be honest and say, look, there is some mix and match we have to do here. Because, in fact, it appears they were trying to get 4 employees who are going to be working the next day on other flights to their place
serve other
in
people.
time.
And
if they don't get there, guess what? You're going to have hundreds of passengers inconvenienced. And so, but the politicians, that's not fun. The fun part is to pound your fist and say, how dare they handle this passenger this way? And that's fine as far as it goes, but let's not pretend that's
Guess what? You'll never fly United ever again, right?
Boycott.
I bet we both will at some point.
Okay, well, we'll see. Next up, White House Press Secretary Sean Spicer speaks on behalf of the president to reporters. He's taking heat for what he said. Hitler, quote, didn't even sink to using a chemical weapon when talking about the chemical weapons attack the U.S. Carried out in Syria last week. He later clarified his comments. Take a listen.
He brought him into the Holocaust Center. I understand that. But I'm saying in the way that Assad used them, where he went into towns, dropped them down to innocent into the middle of towns, it was brought to it. So the use of it, and I appreciate the clarification there. That was not the intent.
Spicer later apologized and emailed reporters saying, in no way was I trying to lessen the horrendous nature of the Holocaust. Dan?
I don't think he was either, but what we have now is, I mean, the way it's supposed to work is the press secretary is supposed to help clean up the president's messes. And
usually.
Believe me, there have been plenty already for Don Trump. The problem now is you could make the argument that Trump needs to hire a press secretary to take care of Sean Spicer's messes because he creates his own. And in this case, same thing. He tried to get out of it and made it worse with the term Holocaust centers.
Yeah.
Do I think that means he was trying to diminish? No, I think he's scrambling. He doesn't know what to say.
He's in quicksand. No, he's in quicksand.
And we're back to the story that any of the Hitler comparisons are extremely stupid and extremely dangerous. To pretend that because he didn't cross one line that Assad has misses the point that he obliterated so many other lines of decency with what he did with the death camps, that it becomes not a comparison you even want to begin to draw.
No, and I think everybody's gotten too fast and loose with the Hitler comparison over the years.
Right.
Either people calling Donald Trump that or the Trump campaign using that over the years. I think we've all gotten a little too casual, and I don't know why. Maybe it's just because so much time has passed and people don't understand it maybe like they should. So, I mean, I'm not here to defend him, Sean Spicer, obviously. It's hard to. Well, I do have a little empathy for him, though, at times, because he's just just on a human level, you feel bad for a guy who's just completely swimming in it.
He is. I mean, the one thing you'd say in his defense is he's walking in defensive every day.
Yes.
Because Trump is usually in the meat grinder about something.
Or he's changed his story on something. Yes,
exactly.
He's changed his story. And the president said this on the campaign, and now he's doing this. Or he likes NATO now, and he didn't like it then. How do you explain that difference? So you're right. He is walking in, and those are veterans in there. The White House press corps, not a lot of green reporters, right? They're ready to roll.
They're jackals.
They're ready to hit you.
But I mean, I still think, isn't it possible to hire somebody who might have a more of a deft touch? I wouldn't say his touch I wouldn't say he's got an agile mind. If I'm forced to describe him,
I would agree.
In order to try to do the best he can under those conditions, and he couldn't have blown that one any worse. I mean, we're just sitting there.
But he admitted it.
Desk,
do we give him any credit? Do we give him any credit?
Well, he had to.
Well, not necessarily. I mean, some people would just blow by it and say, "We'll wait for the next scandal." I mean, how many times does a press secretary do a press junket later, where he's going and doing like one-on-one interviews and saying, "I went into something I never should have, and I completely blew it." That endeared me to the guy.
Now you love him.
Well, I don't love him, but he kind of endeared me.
It's time to usher in a new era of Timberwolves basketball. Let's make some noise. Let's get it started. Give it up for Minneapolis legend P.O.
There it is, the Timberwolves revealing a new logo this week. It shows a wolf head howling and North Star. Team execs say it incorporates civic pride, the team, and of course the wolf, as well as a fresh take on the colors. The logo was a year in the making, and new uniforms and a court design are due up this summer. And while all that's exciting and fun, the team still didn't make the playoffs for the 13th straight year in a row.
Why would you bring that up? Why would you bring that up? I don't know why
They
Lori.
think we're negative.
Yeah, why does Lori have to be negative and totally bring it down there?
Must be a hockey fan.
So this is the new era, not to be confused with the last new era or the last new era or the last. The blueprint, I think, is the old phrase.
Several blueprints.
On the we'll talk about the season in a minute. On the whole logo craze, there was some. First of all, the fact that it was leaked before is kind of like the most Timberwolves thing ever. Like, of all the franchises in town, that to happen. But anyway, I like it. I'm not offended by it. I know some people don't like it. It's a logo at the end of the day, right? I mean, what it is just another distraction, as Lori said, that they didn't make the playoffs again, and we're trying to do something fresh. And that now we do think they have a better blueprint with, we think, a good coach, and we think a lot of good young talent. But at the end of the day, I like that it's kind of like the original logo, which for me is still my favorite.
Your favorite.
Oh, the throwback.
If your formative years.
Yes, exactly.
Well, I'm fine. I have to admit, when I first saw it,
didn't hit you right. I'm with you.
Part of it was, I think you see it on the big screen and you get it. You know, I don't even notice. I'm not even sure I even noticed the star the first time around.
In the
I kind of
basketball,
like that touch.
It's a cool
on the basketball.
Yep.
I'm fine with it. But, you know, they've earned all the jokes that we're happy for. How you can change the Wolf. You can start calling yourself the Polars. That was the other team,
That's
the
right.
other name we were supposed to be back in the day, Harvin Marv. That's what they talked about, the original owners. And it ain't going to matter unless you finally turn the corner. And we are finally. I was not in the group that said, well, they got to make the playoffs this year. I wanted to see more progress than we made, because I don't think we made nearly enough defensively. And I think the head coach, as much as we both endorsed their hiring him, he's got to look in the mirror a little bit about that. But next year, they are required, I think, to make the playoffs. I think they have to finally – you can't just keep making 2-game jumps or 4-game jumps. You've got to get next year to 40 to 42 games, and that's just saying compete for the 8th spot. And whether they're prepared to do that, I think there's a lot of tweaking that's going to have to be done to this particular team. But uniform changes and Target Center is going to have a new look, and that's overdue. They needed that regardless of whether the team was any good.
Yeah.
But there's a weariness that even with talented players, that you reach a point where you go, I get it, we have more talent to build around, but I got to see a big jump. When am I going to see a big jump? It's not illegal. It can be done.
Well, you've compared this situation to Oklahoma City in what they did, and they could definitely use it. At some point, you got to be sick of being an also-ran if you're the younger players and you build those habits to win.
Correct.
Okay, let's talk Twins. They won one of their 3 games against the Detroit Tigers this week. Is optimism still high for the team, Dan?
I guess. I don't know. We went 3-3 on the road trip.
We discussed these topics
They're
ahead of time.
6-3.
They're 6-3. That's better than 0-9. It's considerably better.
Sano's through the roof.
I need them to go through the rotation about 10 to 12 times for me to be convinced that a rotation going in that everybody said ain't up to it, that you're just hoping and wishing and praying, before I'm going to believe that anything significant is going to happen here. There are things in the lineup that look promising. One of them is not Byron Buxton.
Not yet.
At all.
No.
He may have just struck out again as we speak. But probably, well, not sometimes looking, sometimes swinging out of the strike zone. But you got to see, that's the key to this. I mean, pitching. And the first guy, Santana, I like.
He's great.
The rest of them, I still don't trust Gibby. And so get through a bunch. and see if you don't get exposed, and then I will celebrate with you. All it is, it's a nice 6-3 start that might end up being nothing more than a distraction.
The pitching is certainly the key, and they've hung on by basically doing the old 5-and-fly rule. Besides Santana, has anybody even gone into the 7th inning? I don't think so in the first 9 ball games here. And it is funny, like if you listen to the true ball guys, Santana's like a 2 or a 3 on a legitimate big league rotation that's going to be in the postseason. And we love the guy because he's just different. He's refreshing than what they've had around here. He pitches well. He strikes you out. He works
better
fast.
Than Nick Blackburn, is what you're saying.
Blackie, Blackie or Slowey or Scott Baker, Big Spot Scott, all the guys we've had over the years. Yeah, 5-and-fly probably isn't going to work. I don't know enough about how good this bullpen is going to be all year. But if you're only getting into the 5th or 6th, basically every single day, you are going to struggle. But Sano seems like has gotten comfortable again.
Sano's figuring it out, it looks like.
I think they've got some good pieces defensively.
Kepler.
Buxton is great defensively. We know that. But it has been astonishing to watch him again just completely be baffled at the plate.
Yeah, and I don't know what they do. I mean, you just
got to let him figure it out, don't you?
I think you do have to, unless they just, again, worry that he's going to get so traumatized.
Then he's not the guy.
Are historic. I mean, they're historically inept.
Yes.
For any hitter, including, especially one who's supposed to be that good of a prospect. And so we're all about the future this year, I think. And so to get too excited without getting something from him kind of misses the point of what this season's about, I would say.
Okay, enough said. We, as in us, we're up against the Wild tonight. They are up against the St. Louis Blues in Game 2 of the Stanley Cup playoffs first round. It was a heartbreaking loss earlier this week. Your predictions for round 1. Justin, I'm assuming we are going to lead with the Wild, or it will at least be in this first block next Friday night.
I would hope so, yeah. I do think they're still going to win this series, even though I'm very nervous about the fact that they don't have anybody that can just score.
Yeah.
Like, it's bizarre. Now, I know in the regular season, they had more goals than they've ever had in franchise history.
Yeah.
And a lot of that was because of the depth that they've established and the younger guys. Some of them have taken another step. My biggest concern, believe it or not, is not the goaltending, although that can be a concern with Dubes. I thought he was pretty good in Game 1. It is the fact that I think they get in their own heads about the goalie was very good for St. Louis in Game 1, and then all of a sudden you see him overpassing. You see him waiting for the perfect shot. And they get in their heads that, man, we're just dominating. We're playing great, and yet we can't finish the deal. That's my one concern long term.
Well, I mean, let's be honest about
this.
They
played well,
We've talked about 2 other teams that were grading on a completely different curve than the Wild. I mean, the Wild are in a place now where, this is the 5th straight year they've made the playoffs.
Yes.
They have proclaimed on the basis of the moves they made at the trade deadline that we're going for this thing right now. The Western Conference seems a little softer than it's been, or maybe a little more vulnerable.
Chicago just lost at home.
Chicago's down 1-0. So regardless of our predictions, they have to at least get to the conference finals. I think you think they need to get to the finals.
Well, if they beat Chicago or Chicago's out of the mix, I think all bets are off because of the mental block of it. I mean, it's screwy that the best 2 teams in the Western Conference are going to play if they both advance in the second round because of those formatics.
Yes.
So if they get past that round, then I do think all bets should be off and they should make a run.
Well, this is the ultimate test of, can you build a Stanley Cup winner without snipers, without the high-end talent, because that's what killed them in Game 1. That's going to be the frustration at times in any series. And you counter that with incredible depth, 4 lines from which you can score. This is the test of that. It rarely gets done, and it's why when people keep telling me, man, we outplay, year after year, we've outplayed the Blackhawks, like the Vikings outplayed the Saints.
The Saints in the title game.
In the title game, NFC title game. Doesn't matter. If you do not take advantage of your scoring opportunities, and they have a guy who only needs 3 minutes of domination in a period to score twice, they're better. That's what matters, and that's part of why I continue to be concerned about whether you can get this done without that high-end talent. Stop pretending you're going to get...
Time for the lightning round. Comedian Charlie Murphy died from leukemia this week at a New York City hospital. The 57-year-old was a successful stand-up comic and the brother of Eddie Murphy, and he was in several movies with him. Justin.
Well, and if you watched the Chappelle Show, you knew him. If you didn't watch the Chappelle Show, you probably just knew him as Eddie Murphy's brother. But for those of us that were kind of hitting our prime, so to speak, when the Chappelle Show came up, unbelievably funny in that. I mean, the Real World skit, the Rick James skit, and here Local Angle, playing basketball one-on-one versus Prince. played by Dave
Really?
Chappelle.
Oh, wow.
That, I think, is the ultimate Charlie Murphy
I got to look
moment.
that up.
Yeah, it's worth it.
Significant talent in the family, I think we can
Definitely.
say.
And 57.
They look like twins.
Way too, yeah.
Next up, Jim Surtick settles with the city of Minneapolis. He agreed to pay $6,000 fine and close his store for the first 9 Sundays once Sunday liquor sales go into effect come this July, and then a random Saturday of his choosing. Remember, he opened up that store right after it was signed by Governor Dayton, but it's not really illegal or legal until July. Dan?
Well, basically what happened here is he pleaded for mercy and hoped that the city would have more concern for his own employees than he did, and that's what he banked on for them making it. This is a far less draconian punishment. Congratulations, you've really earned it, Mr. Surtick.
And the irony is he never wanted Sunday liquor sales either. So at least for 8, he doesn't. Or 9, he never has to open.
The city went belly up. That city went belly up, I'm afraid.
Next topic, if you fly Sun Country, the planes now have names. The Minneapolis-based airline named its entire fleet after Minnesota lakes, including Lake Nokomis and Lake of the Woods. Justin.
I love it.
It's emotional
I love
for
it.
you.
Well, yes.
It's so Minnesotan.
Hometown airline,
Oh,
Terminal
my
2. We're lucky to have Sun Country here, given what we just
beauty
talked
of
about
it-
in the first block. Sun Country,
They
you never
boot
have
people off planes,
not like that.
too.
No.
Come
Well, they do
on.
it with a Minnesota smile. If they do it, they
Passive
have
aggressive?
Yes, they have a much better bedside manner.
They don't tase the person
I like
or
it.
drag them off so they have
I like
lost
it.
teeth.
Just in time for spring break,
It's a
too.
good, no, I
They
think
go
it's
to
a
lot
good
of
idea,
places.
actually. And we got enough lakes.
Yes.
We ain't going to run out of lakes. I mean, that's for sure.
They'll never
that
have
could've
enough
been a whole
planes to
topic.
get all the
True.
lakes.
Next up, we're all stressed sometimes, right? You guys think I'm stressed all the time.
Never.
But Minnesota is the #1 state for the least amount of stress. WalletHub.com looked at 33 key indicators, including money, work, sleep, and most likely kids, I would think. Right, guys?
Yeah.
Midwest, it's a Midwest thing. North Dakota and Iowa also getting top numbers.
That surprises me.
Dan?
Well,
The weather leads to more stress, I think, than anything. The fact that it's always cold.
yeah,
there's
but you know
snow.
what? It's but then that gets taken care of because we appreciate summer so much because
right?
winter's been so bad or something. Here's the thing that's weird for me. I've lived here, how many years has it been? Since
almost
86,
30.
so
Yeah.
almost 30
over
years.
30. Yeah.
And can you imagine, and this is supposed to be a stress-free place. Can you imagine me
No.
in a stressed community?
Well,
I can't, because all I am
but
is stressed.
Your formative years were spent where?
Gary, Indiana.
In Chicago area. So I think that kind of, you
Maybe
were
that's what it was.
formed in a very stressful
A lot of
area.
They
stress
also
in Gary,
said we
Indiana.
have a
as well.
lot
believe
of.
it.
Yeah.
They also said we have a lot of psychologists, so that goes into
That explains
play
Makes sense.
as well.
And armchair
Get-
ones.
Get this, a Nevada teenager tweets Wendy's and says, how many likes will it take so that I can get free chicken nuggets for a year? They said 18 million likes. It has now become the most retweeted tweet of all time. He's at like nearly 3 million, I believe. And Ellen, her selfie tweet, that famous Oscar selfie tweet, was 2.5 million. Justin?
Yeah, and Ellen's upset about that. She's doing PSAs
don't
with
blame her.
Bradley Cooper to try to keep that status. I mean, when you're Ellen, you need everything, right? You need that status.
I'm not going to retweet him.
But good public relations by Wendy's.
Smart.
I mean, understanding the market, understanding how things work,
Understanding social media, unlike United Airlines,
or
one could
Pepsi,
say, or
in the last
Pepsi,
couple of
or-
weeks.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
so
Or
every
Sean
once in a
Spicer.
while, marketing teams get it.
Yeah,
and
they've
whether
done
they
it.
give him the nuggets or not, if he gets to 18 mil, which
I
is a
guess.
lofty number.
I'm kind of bored with it.
They're in the news.
That's great.
I would think they would give him some free stuff. You would
Give him
think.
For a
couple
year?
of
Maybe
nuggets.
not
No,
for a
yeah,
year,
you don't
but
give him free
something.
nuggets free. Make him work. Make the kid work.
He
for
did.
Well,
Yes, they
yeah.
told it. They gave him a number. Now
All
he's
right.
put it
well,
out
he ain't
there.
gonna get there yet.
Well, it's 3
Well,
million.
you need to
He
start
needs
it, Dan.
18 million.
He's got some work to do.
Last up,
15 to
real
go.
quick, Easter's this Sunday. What is your guilty pleasure Easter basket candy? I like those Cadbury eggs, like the mini ones.
Kind of overrated.
Dan?
Oh, the mini ones actually are
The
good.
mini ones.
Yeah, the mini ones are
In the
much better.
purple
That's a good
package.
call.
They do nothing for me. You know
The
what?
mini
My
ones,
hidden
have you had 'em?
pleasure is a chunky bar. Is that Easter?
Well, if they
candy
make it
enough?
into an egg, because I like the
Yeah, you can
Reese's.
put
The
it in-
Reese's egg is what I like.
Nuts, raisins, and chocolate. That's
Make it an egg or a bunny, and then you're all
whatever.
good.
Then I'm good. It
Then
doesn't
you're
matter.
good.
Put it in any shape you want.
Hide
I'll
your
eat, you know,
basket.
I'll be glad
Yeah,
to
the
take care
Reese's
of it.
egg for me is.
That's the key to it?
I've been eating those for 25 years. I don't know if you can tell that, but that's